Alright, good night and welcome back to the channel. The last time we took a look at development of IPO chart followed by algorithm, and for tonight what I want to show you guys is how you convert your algorithm into actual programming language. And specifically what we look at is just an introduction to Pascal language. Alright, so one of the first thing we want to do is to get the compiler downloaded. So let's take a look at that. And because we're converting from IPO cut through algorithm, and we did last time, and now we're moving into Pascal, we'll try to get the Pascal compiler downloaded, and we'll convert the algorithm into actual Pascal code. Now, keep in mind, just so we can go over some of the theory that is needed, we started off talking about how we problem solve, and we looked at the IPO process, the creation of an IPO chart. We determined what we needed as an input, what we needed as output, and determined what were the processes. In our process, we were looking at the calculation of area for a rectangular figure, and thereafter we said, all right, we could build algorithm from our IPO chart or from the processes being mentioned. So our algorithm, we mentioned that we wanted to, again, find a solution for finding area for a particular rectangular figure and calculate and print the area of the room. So we begin, and we had an ending for the algorithm to show that it was finite. We also inputted some prompting statements, like for example, it would ask the user to get the length of the room, to get the length, it'll ask the user to get the width of the room, it'll get the width, and then it'll say take length, multiply it by width, and give the answer to area. And then we were supposed to print whatever the variable area was holding. So again, these are just variables that we're using, right? And we know that the variable essentially holds a value. So variables can be words, variable can be a single letter. For example, in algebra, I know to teach you about x or y or z. Those are all variables, right? They take the place of a value. So our aim tonight then is to convert our algorithm into actual programming language. Now, to look at some of the theory for programming language, let's first define what is programming, right? And we spoke about this last time when we spoke about algorithm, where programming, and I'm just reading off a website, is the process of creating a set of instruction that essentially tells the computer how to perform a task. And this can be done in a variety of languages, and they gave some examples of different languages, right? So languages such as C++, such as Python, such as Pascal Programming. And the one we'll be using for tonight is Pascal Programming. So know that there's a lot of different languages that you can use to create programs, and programs are just instructions that you write and then send off to somebody. So think about the programs that you use, and know that somebody had to create those. So even your operating system that you use, for example, this one is a Microsoft operating system. This is Windows 10. So somebody had to, or a team had to write up a code to have this working. Think about the browser that we're using, right? Somebody had to write up the code that you're using. A program like calculator, that's an app. Somebody had to write up the code for this calculator to work and to be able to multiply two numbers and give out an answer, right? So essentially this is your input box, or your prompting statement, as we would say, because we're doing the console programming. And so you're entering values, you're giving it a command, and it'll output your answer, right? So programs are essentially a list of instructions that you write in order to have the computer perform certain tasks. Our program that we'll be focusing on today has to do with the calculation of area based on length and width for a particular thing. I know it sounds like a beginner's or a beginning program, but it is because I want you to learn the basic concept of Pascal programming, and hopefully we can look at Python programming in our next lesson. So again, we want to convert now our algorithm into actual Pascal coding, and we'll dwell into it by actual doing, right? So I'll leave this here so that we can follow with that while we're typing in our program. So let's download a Pascal compiler. So in order for you to convert what you've written in algorithm or on a particular programming language, you'll have to download a compiler or an interpreter that can be used to convert what you write into machine code. Now for Pascal, there are some nice ones. There's the online Pascal compiler. For us, I want us to use a Pascal compiler that will be on the machine itself. So I know that there's one, it's called Dev Pascal. So we'll do the Dev Pascal download, and I'll download it from bloodshed.net. And right here, there is our link to our compiler. So remember, if you want to read up more about compilers, do that. And if you want to find out how compilers work, how interpreters work, for us particularly tonight, we're looking at the Pascal code, right? Or Pascal programming language. So that is finished downloading. It's a pretty small file, but it does a lot, right? So I'll install that onto my computer. I agree. It goes into C, Dev Pascal. That's okay. It's extracting all the stuff that is needed. And so I essentially want to show you now some of the different syntax or some of the keywords that are needed for the programming language. So consider this as a introduction to Pascal programming. But the concept that I want you to understand most is that we can convert what you write as algorithm into actual programming and get a file that you can send to somebody and have them run that program. So I'll see if I can show you all that tonight, right? So okay, sorry. Alright, so this is your Pascal compiler open. It's Dev Pascal 1.9.2, and it's a free Pascal compiler. Of course, there are many different compilers available, especially for Pascal. I think there's some other types of compilers available for Pascal. They all do the same thing. They convert what you write into machine language. And remember that machine language is the zeros and the ones, right? And you can choose other languages and look at introduction to other languages to have it converted into machine code. So Pascal programming. The first thing I normally do is to go to File, and we choose New Source File. File and New Source File. And it gives you this screen or your work area, and I'll just delete some of the stuff that we don't need from here, right? Let me get rid of everything so we're starting fresh. Alright. So again, it was File and New Source File. Alright, the first thing in every Pascal programming language that you need is actually the word program to start your Pascal programming code. So the word program followed by the name of the program. So I'm calling mine the area calculator, and I'm not putting any space in between the name. Notice what I like to do is to just capitalize the first letter of every word instead of putting in space in the program name. Program is bolded because it's a keyword being used. Before program, a good idea is to, as a part of your documentation for your program, there, you can place in a comment, and comments can be placed anywhere in your code. I like to, first of all, give a description of the program that I'm writing, put my name as a programmer, put the date I'm writing, and put a version number. So whenever I make changes, I can track those changes with the version number, right? So I use a comment for that in particular. So open curly brackets and close curly brackets gives you a comment that you can type anything there and it won't affect your working program. So For my comment, I'll put in what this program will do. So I'll say this program will, let's put a short description, find the area of a rectangle. And remember, comments are simply for you as the programmer. So I'm moving that curly brackets down, and I'll do it like this so that I'm clear with where the curly brackets start and where it ends, right? So programmer, that's me, the programmer. I'll see Marcel, Palma, the date created. I'll put today's date, which I think is the 9th. I'm lost with these. 9th of April 2020. The version number, I'm calling this version 1.0 as my version for my program. Right? So on most of the programs that you write, I would recommend that you place this, a small commented area up top that gives you a description of your program, name of the programmer, the date you created the program, and version number, and of course any other notes that you think might be necessary for you as the programmer that you may need to see or view later on, right? All right, let's get back to it. So program name, again, program name carries no spaces followed by a semicolon, right? And this of course is just the rules that you follow in writing a program in Pascal, right? The next line after program is that we would want to um, give a list or declare the variables that we'll be using. Now, from my file here that I had in algorithm and my IPO chart, I could determine what my variables will be. I have a variable called length, I have a variable called width, I have a variable called area, right? And so I'll use these as is also, so we have consistency throughout our code. So length, width, and area as variables, right? So to declare variables, we use the word var. I'll go to a new line, and we have length and width and area. And let me capitalize these since I'm working with kind of standard. So length, width, and area. And you need to determine what data type these will be. In this case, I will try it as a whole number. And so I'll try it as an integer value. And if it doesn't work, then we'll change it over to a real value. So let me touch on that a little bit. We have several data types that we can use. One is integer, which has to do with your whole number. So the -3, the 3, the 10, those are integer values. We can also use real values, and real values are numbers that you know that you may need to divide and you're left with a remainder, or numbers that you'll multiply and you'll have a decimal place. So like 3.55, that's a real value because it has a decimal place in it. We could also use character. Comes in as char, so char, as a data type, and we can also use string to take in a word or a string of characters. So in our case, we're looking at length, width, and area, and for now, these should be real, but I'm putting them as integer, just so we don't have to do the formatting as yet, right? If it doesn't work, they will change it to real, but these should be integer, and so we'll deal with only whole numbers. So we'll assume that our rectangular figure is only whole numbers. All right. So at the end of that line, there's also a semicolon here, right? And you can, like I mentioned, you can put comments anyway. So let's say I want to remember here that this is only for integer values. Then I can put it in the curly brackets, open and close. I notice the color is a little bit different from actual coding color, right? All right. Next, we want to begin and end. I normally like to type in the end automatically after I type in begin. There should be a curly bracket here. You guys noticed that, right? I made a mistake and I put a square bracket. And so this remain blue, and so I noticed that this should be a curly bracket, right? And automatically it changes. All right. So this should look familiar, right? You have your begin and you have your end. The end here carries a full stop. So what I mean by look familiar is that now it looks something like your algorithm, right? So we have begin and end. So the first thing you want to do is to ask the user to get the length of the room. So let me just type it out. So to print, ask the user to get the length of the room, we use a command in Pascal called write_ln. So write_ln stands for write line, open brackets, open quotes, single quotes, right? We tell the user to enter the length of the room, close quotes, close brackets, semicolon. And this is our prompting statement. So it tells the user enter the length of the room. So that is what the user will see on screen whenever this program is run. Next, our next command is read_ln statement, our read line statement. And so we can tell the user to enter a value into a particular variable. So in this case, we want that the user enters a value into the variable called length. Good. So we have our prompting statement, we have our assignment statement, our write_ln and read_ln, right? And so we're complete with this piece. So now we're going here to get the width of the room. So I'll borrow this code so I don't have to be typing and typing. And it says enter the length. I'll change it to enter the width of the room. And of course, the variable we're reading in is the width of the room. Good. Next step, and I'm always reflecting back on my algorithm, which was my plan for the program. Next step is to take length, multiply it by width, and give the answer to area. All right, so to do that, we say area, and now we need to use the mathematical operator equal. So, but equal in Pascal is written as colon equal. Area will get length times the width of the building, and it will be stored in a variable called area. Good. So doing good so far. Reflecting back on the algorithm, it says print the area of the room is, and then we output what the variable area is holding. So to print to the screen, remember what we used? We used the write_ln statement, and we're printing to the screen that the area of the room found was or is, and I'll go to a new line. We could put this all in one line if we wanted to, and I'll show you that change afterwards. So I'll put write_ln, and you have to be careful with the spellings, right? Write_ln area followed by a semicolon. Now, that's our complete program. So again, just to review what we have on hand, we have an area here with comments about what the program will do, name of the programmer they created. We started with the keyword program followed by a program name. And remember that you don't want to put spaces in your program name, and you don't want to also use variables that you're using, right? We listed our variables, length, width, area, and we're saying that these will hold integer value. I placed in another comment here just to show you that comments don't really affect your program. And then from our algorithm, then we were able to determine what the prompting statement would be. And to output to the screen, we use a write_ln statement. And to read a value into a particular variable, we use a read_ln statement, right? So read line and write line. right? Let me put a comment here so you don't confuse, because people like to put in that it means they put in right in, it should be right ln means right a line, right? That makes it easier. It makes it easier for you to recognize that we're dealing with right line, right? So right ln. So we also write ln or print to the screen, enter the width of the room. The user then gets to type in the width of the room. It multiplies the width by the length and give the answer to area. And then you're able to print back to the screen the area of the room found and the area or the value that is held in the variable called area. So let's compile this and run this, make sure we have no errors, and see if it actually works. So to compile, the little arrow there, to compile, I'll put this on my desktop for it now. I'll put it in a new folder. I'll call this folder my area calculator code, right? And open. Oh, sorry, I should have given it a better name. Here we go. So let's call this program area calculator, and it's a Pascal source file, right? So save. Now if everything goes fine, it should compile without errors. So here's 0 errors because everything is perfect, right? Which normally won't happen. You'll miss something and it'll show you where the error is. So let me show you an error and then I'll come back, right? So let me click continue. So let's say I forgot to put in this semicolon at the end. So 1 semicolon. I compile. Notice it says total number of error is 1. Now, to help you to find your error, if you did not know where the error is, and you'll be looking through your code and getting frustrated and going crazy because you can't believe one thing would damage your program. So right here, it says line 18, right? And it says syntax error found. And so we have different types of errors. There's a syntax error that has to do with specific words or things that the language needs, right? It says semicolon expected, but the identifier right ln found. Now that tells me that the right ln should have been to a new line. The semicolon ends the line, so the line above the statement doesn't have a semicolon. So double click it so it takes you to the line. So here to the line it says semicolon expected, but identifier right ln found, so it's the line above because the semicolon belongs here. So when I put that in, I can compile, and now it's 0 errors and it's ready to run again. So make sure that you pay attention to the language syntax when you're working with Pascal coding. So let's click on execute, and this is what it looks like. So we have our first program running, right? It's pretty exciting. So it says here, remember the same word that we had in, that we entered here as what we wanted print to the screen. It says enter the length of the room. So let's say the length of my room is 10, right? 10 feet. Well, let's put in the number 10. And we press enter. It jumps to this one. So we're here where it read something into length. So 10 should be stored into the variable called length. And now it's at enter the width of the room, and it's ready to read the value for width. So let's say we enter the number here 5, and we press enter. The program ran so fast that we did not see what happened. So let me show you how to fix that. The program is correct, but it closes off because we didn't give it a chance to say, all right, don't close it until I do something, right? To fix that, let's put a read ln statement here with nothing. It's just waiting for you to press a key, right? And let me put a comment that this will wait for you to press enter. Now, if you're using other Compilers, you probably don't need this if you're using the online compiler, right? But in this case, we do. So the readln is only for that. It doesn't really affect your program. So let me compile again and execute. So enter the length. We say that was 10. Enter the, remove this. Enter the width of the room. Let's do 5. And so it says the area of the room found is, the area of the room found is, and it did the calculation already up here, and it prints whatever area is holding. So 10 times 5 is 50. And so the area of the room found is 50. Right? So perfect. We have our first working program, right? And we can go ahead and modify this into other programs that we want. And here where it's blinking and it's waiting is because it's at readln. So as soon as we press enter here, the program should end. Good. So give it a try, modify some of the things, add in a new variable, see if you can get it working. And of course, try see if you can perform some other calculation and add in other stuff, right? And see how you can twist and use this programming language to create a program on your own. Let me show you what I meant earlier when I said that we could do this in one line. So right in the area of the room is close quotes. I can put a comma and I can put back the same variable name without quotation, and it should do the same thing. So let's say we're dealing with 12, use some different numbers by 5. The area found is 60. So you notice now that it did it on the same line because I did here a right ln, I close my quotes, I put a comma followed by the variable to be printed out, which is wherever the number is, right? So 60. Good. So what you have created is your first program using Pascal programming language. Now let me show you where this is stored. So if you wanted to send your program to somebody to use it, you can send it to them and they will be able to just double click it and use it. They don't see your code in the background, right? They simply use your program. Similar to what we're doing here, we don't see the code that was written up for this program. We're just using the program, right? So it's an executable file. I stored it in my desktop. I had it under my area calculating code. So if I were to send this program to somebody, I would send the application, right? They are not concerned with the Pascal source file and some of the other files that are needed for it as a programmer. This is what they want. They want this application. So when they receive this, they would just click on this and the program will run. And so they can use this program now to calculate the length and width for any room that they want, and it'll give them the total area for that particular room. So this is what I would email over to somebody as a, maybe I'll compress it first and then email it, simply because um, your antivirus may recognize that .exe file as a virus file, right? But that .exe files are just executable file. All your application files are .exe files, right? So that's pretty much it. Look back at the code, take a review of it, give it a try, download the compiler. If you find that this compiler is not working for you, you can always go to a Pascal online compiler. Let me show you how to find that. So you can type in, for example, Pascal online compiler, and it takes you here to online GDB. And I like to use this compiler because it allows you to work the code and shows you the compiled version at the bottom, but you don't get to see the executable side of it, right? And of course, this brings again for a variety of different languages that you're trying to learn, right? And so we have it on Pascal to work with it. So I hope you get a chance to go and try some programming yourself. Um, Also, I hope this teaches you something from the conversion of IPO to algorithm to Pascal code, right? Stay safe. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Leave a comment below if you have any questions concerning the programming in Pascal. I am available right through now to answer questions for you. And like always, guys, just go there and geek yourselves.